Ago.
Amen.
Ago.
Amen.
Ago.
Amen.
All right, we're going to try this again, take 2. So today we're going to work on why Kemet, so-called ancient Egypt, matters. And what I want this to do, I don't want it to be just talking at you. We're going to make this interactive. So when I say Kemet, Kemet, I want you to say matters, matters. Let's try that. Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
So again, today we're dealing with why Kemet, so-called ancient Egypt, matters. All right? So first we'll get started with a quote by the luminary Cheikh Anta Diop. I want everyone to pronounce his name in a Wolof way. Cheikh Anta Diop. Cheikh Anta Diop. And this is a very powerful quote for him where he said, the history of Africa will remain suspended in air and cannot be written correctly until African historians connected with the history of what? Kemet, Kemet? Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
The African historian who evades the problem of Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Is neither modest or objective, nor unruffled. He is ignorant, cowardly, and neurotic. Now, because I'm neither ignorant, cowardly, nor neurotic, I decided I would tackle the issue of Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Head on. But instead of saying Egypt, which is basically meaningless to us as African people, we decided to use the term, as the Africans themselves call themselves, Kemet, the land of African people, the land of black people. And here you see, this is the original written language called Medu Necha. This part is the Medu, this is the Necha. But through the process of what is called honorific transposition, we always put what is sacred in front. So this is Medu Necha, so-called hieroglyphs. And in the language itself, you see, this is the biliteral Kem, which means black. And then the owl of Kemet, and then the half loaf, and that is Kemet. And when you see it with a man and a woman as a determinative, it's telling you people who are black. That was the indigenous term for what we are now calling ancient Egypt. Now when you change out that determinative for a crossroads, now it's telling you land of people who are black. So this is land of black people. So it's very important for us to use this term Kemet. And it's very much, how many people have heard that term Kemet before? I hope everyone. Oh, I'm preaching to the Africans. So there's a reason why so many others don't know that word. They hear Egypt, 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 and that is intentional. Because as soon as you hear the word Kemet, you'll say, well, what does that mean? And you'll be pointed to the truth. And then these exactly are beautiful African sisters here of Kemet. Now again, even though we talk about Kemet, land of the black people, this is not a concept that's only found in Kemet. As a matter of fact, anytime African people conceptualize this land in our own languages, you find a correlation between black people and the land of black people. So in the Afrikan language, you have the word for a black person, an African person, Obibini. Let's say that, Obibini.
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 With the root of that being Bibi, black. When you want to pluralize it, Abibifo. 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 Again, the root is Bibi, black. And then when you want to talk about the land of the people, we're not saying the land itself, the soil is black. We're saying this is the land of the people who are black. And we refer to it as Abibimine. 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 So you find that in other things also, such as in African medicine, Abibidru. 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 With Abidru being medicine. So medicine associated with people who are black. So all of these things come from that same core. You find the same thing in Yoruba, where you want to talk about African people in the Yoruba language, you say Adulawo. Adulawo. Adulawo.
Adulawo.
Adulawo.
Adulawo.
And the root of that is dudu, to be black. So Adulawo, when you want to talk about the land of those who are black, you say ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀.
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 And you see me privileging the sisters here. This is a Yoruba sister. And then you can also, in the Wolof language, anytime we want to conceptualize ourselves and this land in our own languages, you'll find this nit kunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit kunyul.
This is human beings who are black. Also, when you want to pluralize it, nit nyunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit nyunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Nit nyunyul.
Nit kunyul.
Now, when you want to talk about the land in African language, you say Reu Nikunyul.
Reu nit kunyul.
Reu Nikunyul.
Reu nit kunyul.
This is the land of those who are black. So this is something that you find very common. We can go all the way over to Congo. And when we want to talk about ourselves in our own languages, how do we refer to ourselves? Ndombe.
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 And this again comes from the root Ndombe, to be black. Ndombe being human beings who are black. Now, to pluralize it, Bandombe.
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 When you want to talk about African writing systems, we call it Mandombe.
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 And then when we want to talk about the land of African people, we refer to it as Nsia Bandombe.
Nsia Bandombe.
Nsia Bandombe.
Nsia Bandombe.
The land of the blacks. So this goes back all the way to ancient Kemet, and anytime we use this in our own languages, we refer to this as land of the black people. So it's very important that we speak our own languages, because when we use other people's languages, we lose something in translation. And not only African people refer to ourselves as this, but even non-Africans, when they talk about Ethiopia, this is written in Greek, land of those of the burnt faces. So we're not saying that the land itself is burnt, we're saying that the people whose land that is are black. In the Romans, they refer to it in Latin as Niger, black. And that's also where you get the modern day states of Niger and Nigeria, right? So they're not saying that the land itself is black, they're saying this is the land of black people. Also in Arabic, they refer to it as Bilad al-Sudan. And that's where you get the modern day states of Sudan and South Sudan coming from. All right? Now this is a very important point, that the land is always referring to the land of black people. Because Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
This is how I want to catch you when you want to doze off. And this is one for the sisters. This is how African people were depicted in Rome at a Roman bathhouse. And this is a brother holding something that I'm sure you can recognize in its rightful size, because they wanted to keep it as accurate as possible. So this may be the source of the problems that Europeans have been having with us. So we're going to come to the first point. Who exactly were these Kemet, the black people and citizens of Kemet? We can see us carved in stone, and then you can see us in Kenya to this very day. Still looking the same, still looking like our black glorious selves, looking back at our ancestors here. Well, let's show you how we depicted ourselves. Again, just as we said, that this is coming from Faulkner's Concise Dictionary of Middle Egyptian, where you see here, Kim is black, right? Now when you have the determinative of the crossroads inside of a circle, now we're talking about the land of the blacks. Now, what white pseudo-historians try to tell you is they say, oh, well, it's referring to the land, the ground itself is black. Okay, well, how would you explain this? This is what Cheikh Anta Diop used in order to blow them out of the water. All right, well, if they're saying that this means the land is black, well, now what is this? The man and the woman, plural. They had to be quiet, because they knew exactly what you know. That Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
They knew that this just meant black people. And the land is by a process of what we call in linguistics semantic extension. That when we see that these are black people, now we refer to the land as land of the black people. We're not saying the ground is black any more than when we say Niger or Nigeria that we're saying the ground is black. Any more when we're saying Sudan or South Sudan that we're saying the ground is black. How ridiculous is this? No more than when we say Ethiopia that we mean the ground is black. What are you talking about? It makes you just want to roll up to one of these white pseudo-historians and give them a copperware slap on the face. But I would not advise that right this second. I'll let you know when. Now here, just when we talk about the people of Kemet, how do we refer to ourselves as citizens? In Chi, we will call it Amanfo, the people of the nation. Or when we depicted it in Kemet, we would use the term Ramech. Ramech. So again, this is Faulkner's dictionary, which is used in so-called Egyptology, and then Ramech. This is what we use for men, mankind, also referring to women. You see the plural of a man and a woman here, right? And then this is also the word that we use for so-called Egyptians, the people of Kemet. Well, now let's see how we depicted ourselves as Ramech. This is something that was brought forth again by Cheikh Anta Diop, who's the main university, just the equivalent of university in Ghana. University of Ghana in Senegal is named after Cheikh Anta Diop. So he brought this to light, or brought it to black, that here you find this exact same Ramech. And you see how we depict ourselves as Ramech. Now what is equally interesting about this is when you see the second one over from the far right, this is Nehesie. That's how we depicted the Africans in Nubia. Now, do you notice any similarity between how we depicted ourselves as people of Kemet and how we depicted ourselves as people of Nubia? Who sees a similarity? Yeah. If you don't, I know a good place where they sell glasses and contact lenses. Other than that. Now, this is very important. So you have two types of people of Kemet, this one, and two types of people of Nubia, this one and this one. And you see Nehesie referring to both. You see Ramech referring to both. Now, on the far right over here, this is the first one that you would read. In Medu-Neter, whenever you are looking at different symbols of animals, this is the quail chick, you read going towards the faces. You read going towards the faces as they are facing you. So reading this one, the first one, this is what we call the Tembu, the Libyans, so-called. And then over here, these are the Asiatics. And that's going to be a very important point because to this day, you have a lot of African people who are pretending that they're Asiatics. They're on the wrong side. When they look at history, they say, well, we're the Hebrew Israelites. They say, oh, well, we're the original Arabs. Well, look at how your African ancestors depicted the human beings of the planet Earth. You're either, if you're black, you're either this one, the Ramech, or you're this one further into the interior of Africa. If you find yourself as an Asiatic, we're showing you the two types that we knew of, right? So when you're saying, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, perhaps you should go back to what your ancestors depicted that as, because you may be on the wrong side. Again, if you say, oh, I'm the original Arab, you may want to look at what those Arabs look like according to your ancestors. So now if you want to join the right side, you can see that the first one was a reproduction. This is an actual photo, not an illustration, carved in stone. Because it's like your ancestors knew that perhaps someone would try to tell you that Kemet didn't matter. But we know that Kemet matters. Kemet matters. Kemet matters. Very good. And you see this exact same Ramech, and I have it highlighted in red. So these are the people of the nation of Kemet as we depicted ourselves. And look at how jet black them Africans are. They're blacker than all of y'all put together. They're blacker than 1,000 midnights. Look at how black that is. You see? And then we're again showing you the Asiatics and the so-called Libyan types, invaders to Africa as they are now. Now this is a founder of Kemet. He looks just like my man right here. You see? Which means he's a very handsome guy. Another thing I'm saying, he looks a bit like Mike Tyson in his prime. You see? Looks like somebody you don't want to mess with, right? This is the founder of Kemet, Narmer, also known as Menes or Meni. And you see it written here. Now, I was contacted by a colleague of mine who told me, and we didn't know this, that there's a graduation going on at the same time for some of the undergrads. So we didn't know that, so that was an unintentional conflict. And at first, I was saying, oh, it's too bad that, we have this conflict. And I was saying, it's really bad that some people are graduating without getting this information. There are people who are graduating who don't know how to read and write anything other than Latin script. But we're going to teach you how to read and write today if you don't already know. So here you see the Nar, Mer, and then here you see the Min, and then N, and then E. Namar, also known as Mini or Minis, as we refer to them. Obviously, a jet black African just like you and me. Now we're going to go to the person who the first pyramid, the step pyramid, or Mer, as it was called, was built for. You see him here sitting there with his locks, looking just like me. Now, for those of you who thought that locks started with Bob Marley and started in Jamaica, let's take you back a few thousand years ago so you can see where it comes from and what it means. It means someone who has a spiritual connection to the divine, oftentimes someone who was initiated into the spiritual systems. And that's exactly what it meant all the way up until you didn't know what it meant anymore. I say it's sort of like cocoa. Why do I say it's like cocoa? Because they grow it here in Africa, they take it abroad, and when it comes back, you don't recognize it. So this is something that started here going back thousands of years. They took it to Jamaica, brought it back, and now you say, Rasta, Rasta, Rishi, hey, hungry. And I look at these people, I say, you are lost. Selassie, I say, you are lost. But I don't hold it against them. I just get my hand back and I say, when I get up to one of these white pseudo-historians, I will just give them a cup or a what? Slap. So this is Joseph, and we'll come back to this. He's a very important figure. Also look at Mentuhotep. This is the founder of the Middle Kingdom. So we took you all the way, and these aren't just random folks, right? These are the rulers, the people who established the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, so forth and so on. Now look at how black this brother is. Who does he look like here in this room? Who's he? Oh, aha! He looks just like this brother here, which means he's very handsome, right? Look at this brother. Just give me that side view right here. Look at that brother right there. He got the little smile still. Oh, man, that's the brother. So if you want to know what the people of Kemet look like, just look at your brothers and sisters sitting right beside you. It's not magical. It's not mystical. We carved it in stone so you could never forget. And there's a reason why we aren't shown these images, because we're not the only ones who know that Kemet matters. Kemet matters. Kemet matters. Oh yes, we know this information. So this is Mentuhotep, who reunited Kemet again, and we call that ancient examples of Pan-Africanism. Saying that we should unite isn't something that just started back in 1900. We were talking about uniting and unification. We weren't only talking about, we were accomplishing it. Because at that time we had even more power to accomplish it. So as soon as we had the idea, boom, we bring it into force. This is ancient Pan-Africanism, which I just spoke about in Ibadan, Nigeria last month. Now look at this sister. Look at how black this sister is.
Ashe.
She's so black they didn't even know what type of ink to use for her. You see this? She's so black that you'll see a rainbow shine off of her skin whenever the sun rays hit her. This is Amos Nefertari. She was the female, the wife, the counterpart of Amos, who drove the Hyksos invaders out of Kemet. Right? Very important figure. And then also a symbol of balance, because you see, it wasn't just a man who did it by himself. Right? That's what we call complementarity. And you can see her name written here as well, Amos Nefertari. Let us come to Jehuti Mes, what the Europeans call Tutmos III. Look at how black this brother is. There's nobody in this room right now as black as this man. All right, you're close. All right. He's raising his hand. All right. Yeah, he's there. All right. I got to get the side view. Let me see the side view. Okay, all right. He got it. All right. Now look at this brother. And he looks pretty much, he still looks the same. Is that you? Jehuti Mes, is that you? Now this is one of the greatest military leaders in the history of the entire planet Earth. Because not only did he cement the conquest of Kemet again after driving out the Hyksos, he took the battle to these Eurasians and extended the empire into southwestern Asia. So this is Jehuti Mes. Now, oftentimes I ask my students, how many people know Jehuti Mes? They said, oh bless you, did you sneeze? I said, no, I'm saying the name of your ancestor, Jehuti Mes. They say, I've never heard of him. I said, have you ever heard of Napoleon? All the hands go up. And I shed a tear. Because I know that Kemet
Matters.
Let's continue. All right, I'm not going to say anything. What do you see? See that profile? This is me. And probably one of the most handsome brothers up here. This is Amenhotep III. And he's a very important figure as well. He was the grandfather of someone who you may have heard of, King Tut, right? And we're going to come back to him, but you can see exactly what he looks like. So these white, pseudo-Eurocentric, lying, thieving, perpetrating a fraud, so-called scholars will look at this jet-black African and tell you, oh, it's a white man with a suntan. So what you have to do when they say it, you have to cock your hand back and give them a good capoeira slap, type that will knock you out. Because it's more demoralizing to get them a slap than a punch. The punch, that's too much for them. You just want to back slap. And again, I want you to learn this. For those of you, I saw some of you had your phones out. You should write down his name, take a picture so you can go back to that. This is how you write his name. All right? Amenhotep, Hekau Waset, the ruler of Waset. And this is his wife, Queen T, who looks just like my wife. She stepped out, but when she comes back, I want you to tell her she looks like Queen T. I always tell her that. She said, but she looks mad. And I was like, well, you look mad when I tell you that. But Queen T, look at how black this sister is. Now they will look at this sister and say, okay, well, she came from Nubia, and what had happened was she got locks. Look at this, she got locks. Just like you, got locks. Boom. You see this? So the pictures, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I will keep going. But again, you can see her name written up top. If you didn't know how to write her name, learn how to write her name. That's Queen T. This is Ramisu Mary Imun, the beloved of what we call Amen, or what you may call Onyamin to this day. And again, look at this brother. He's taking the war to the enemy. Look at him seated. Look at him black. Now who does this brother look like? Who does this brother look like? He looks like a bit like you, brother, on the chariot. Look, I can see you drawing the bow back. Kemet
Matters.
This is Ramesses III. And you can tell the difference in their names because of the surname, Hekat Unu. And this is the ruler of what we now call Heliopolis. Ramesses III, look at this brother. Look at him, a bit like you, my man. I'm glad you came to see yourself again.
All right.
Now this is Tutankhamun, looking black. Look at him like my son who just came out of here crying. This brother Tutankhamun, this is the image, the living image of Amen, which you now call Onyamin to this day. All right? And he was the one who, you may have heard of Akhenaten. Amenhotep IV, who is often credited for founding so-called monotheism, right? So he shifted away from Amen to Aten. But when Tutankhamun came of age, he shifted it back to Amen, the spirituality of our ancestors. So you can see him seated. And he's going to be a prominent figure, so we're going to come back to him a little bit later on. So not only in the images, but also in the literature of ancient Kemet, we said where we came from. Right? Who were these Africans? They're talking about when they had to go into the south, there was a famine. So Imhotep was sent into the south by Joseph in order to find out why the Hapi River, what we now call the Nile River, wasn't flowing. So he had to go all the way to the source of Hapi in order to find out what was up. So he went all the way to the place which the ancestors had made their way. This is the place where the ancestors came from, further into the south. Anyone who knows a little bit about geography, you know that that is where the Nile starts. They said they went to the first of the first known to Wawat. Wawat was one of the indigenous names for what we now call Kush or Nubia to this day. So the first known to Wawat, that means it's so far into the south, it's the very first. It says the Twin Caverns is the water's name. This is referring to the blue and the white Niles that come together at what we now call Khartoum. They are the breasts that nourish all. So when you see Hapi depicted, you'll see Hapi depicted with two breasts. And this is a figurative depiction of those two Niles coming together, right, in order to nourish all. Very good. So again, we see that not only in the depictions, but we also see that in the literature, we show you exactly where we came from. We continue. Now let's take it to genetics. This is Tutankhamun and Amenhotep on the left. And in 2012, they did a study. This is DNA tribes, the last of the Amana pharaohs, King Tut and his relatives. And they wanted to see, out of every living population, who has the closest genetics to King Tut. And what did they find? They found that the Southern Africans, to the tune of 1519.03, that is his highest match likelihood index. That means that these are the same people, and no one else is even close except for those in the African Great Lakes region. Now we say the Great Lakes, we're not talking about Michigan. No, we're not saying that. We're talking about Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, all of that area, right? And they're saying that that is the second closest match in terms of genetics. All right, you can't fake that. And then third on the list is tropical West African. Now who is that? Look to your left, look to your right. That's you. So if you want to know what you looked like before, look at how you look like now. And then Amenhotep, you see his highest match likelihood index is the African Great Lakes region, right? This is the grandfather. And then you see Southern African second, tropical West African third. And then for both of them, the Horn of Afrika is fourth, the Sahel, and so forth and so on. And before you can even get out of the continent, that's when you start getting into the single digits, which means that those folks didn't have anything to do with that. Let's continue. I told you we would come back to Ramesses III. So his DNA, his highest match likelihood index was in the African Great Lakes region to the tune of 335.1. And then second, the Southern African, 266. Third, tropical West African, 241. Then Horn of Afrika, then Sahel. Before you get to North African, those are the invaders who are here now. And the only reason why they're on the chart is because of rape and miscegenation. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be on the chart. So there's a proverb in G. Let me hear you say, that is to say, a crab does not beget a bird. So who else do you think that would look like other than you? That's your ancestors that you're looking at carved in stone. Very good. So this is a bit of a family reunion today.
Nice.
And then I will show you, again, a depiction of where Ramesses III's closest relatives are. You can see them here on the map. So his closest relatives are there in the Great Lakes region, second in Southern Africa, third, tropical West Africa, fourth in the Horn of Afrika, and then fifth there in the Sahel. Now, you're probably looking at me and you're like, oh, your map is upside down.
Yeah.
Who thinks my map is upside down?
You know better.
Who knows that my map is right side up? Very good. You've either come to a previous lecture I've given or you knew it already. Either way, I accept it. And if you see Africa seated like this, you will also see her seated like this, as we depicted in stone. So she's kneeling down to the side, and you can see the locks flowing down her head. Boom, that's Africa. I'll come back to that point because I don't want you to miss that about how the map needs to be turned right side up. So we'll come back to that point. Who wants to know about that point? That's good because it seems like you know that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet. This is what I like to hear. Now on top of all of that, Cheikh Anta Diop. Let's hear his name. Cheikh Anta Diop. I don't want to hear you say Diop. That is how English speakers pronounce French spelled words. Diop. That one of the most significant revelations presented at the Cairo Symposium in 1974 for UNESCO was Diop's development of the melanin dosage test. And basically what that was, he would get a few square millimeters of mummified skin, which were then coated in ethyl benzoate. If you look at ethyl benzoate in a jar, you may not know what it is, but it's very important. Then he exposed it to natural or ultraviolet light. This procedure rendered the melanin granules, and melanin is what makes you black. It's your pigmentation that makes you black. It made those melanin granules of the skin specimen fluorescent, thus enabling them to be counted by Diop, who stated in the experiments that they show a melanin level which is non-existent in the white-skinned races. Let us simply say that the evaluation of melanin level by microscopic examination, scientific microscopic examination, is a laboratory method which enables us to classify the ancient Egyptians unquestionably among the black races. And let's just say that the genetics that we just showed vindicated Cheikh Anta Diop, in addition to all of the things carved in stone that show you exactly that. So again, Cheikh Anta Diop knew that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Very good. So this is very important. And then also you should know this test is still used to this day. So if someone's house burns down and they're not sure of the race of the person, they use this exact same test to see whether they are black or not.
Right.
Validated to this day. And again, if you want to know who those people were, look at this Tutsi brother. He has his head shaved in just the exact same way as the crown used to be. And then this brother, head shaved in the exact same way as the battle crown used to be, the Tutsis. Now, if you are familiar with recent history, just like in ancient Kemet, they said, oh, well, these are just dark-skinned white people. Well, when these Eurasian enemies got to Rwanda, they said, oh, you Tutsis, you are just dark white people. And we know what that led to. So we need to throw all of that BS out of the window and then give these European pseudo-scholars a nice pimp slap upside of their chins. Very good. Now let's look at Akhenaten's daughter and then a sister from Congo. So they do the head shaping in Congo, right? When the child is young and the skull is still very supple and soft, they do the shaping. And that's the exact same thing that they did in ancient Kemet. So you can see the head still the same way, right? Kemet
Matters.
Now, despite all of this preponderance of proof to show you, we still have these white pseudo-scholars who will tell you, this is my favorite meme, white historians will be like, the Egyptians aren't black. They're looking at all these black people staring into their face. Oh, they're not black, if they weren't black, that's all you would hear about. Oh, Egypt. You haven't heard about this because they know exactly what we're telling you, that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
So you thought we were going off track, let's take it right back. That, as we were explaining, that in Kemet, the word for east and left were one and the same, they were related. This means that what's on your left is in the east, where the sun rises. I hope you're following me. And then the word for west and right, iminet and imun, were related. What's on your right is in the west. That's where the sun sets. Where we are, West Africa, is right. So this means that where your face is where you came from, the interior of Africa. Not only that, we call Resut, the south, we refer to that as Upper Egypt. That's up. That's up. I hope you're following me. That's up. And then we refer to Tamuhu, Lower Kemet, as that's the north, and that is lower. So tell me your orientation isn't upside down if you don't know that this is how the map should be. Because the people of Kemet said east is on your left, west is on your right, you are facing where you came from, and you have your butt to the butt crack of Europe. Again, you are facing what's important. And if you look at all types of different African languages, the way to say something that you despise, that you revile, you refer to it as what is in your back. Can you see in Yoruba, mi chi sadiyano, and chi, that's still your back. So you turn your back to what is irrelevant. And again, you can see your mother seated here, you can see your mother seated there. That's your Kemet. So once we see this, now we can turn the map right side up. This is a map done by the brother who teaches Medu Necha on my website, Abibitumi Kasa, which translates to Black Power language. And he created this map in order to show you everything the right side up, and then very important monuments and locations there on the Kemet map. You can also find that map for sale on Abibitumi Kasa. We continue, not to beat a dead horse, but just so you know I'm not just making this up, I want to show you in stone. See that? That's east. That is the standard of the east, emblem of the east, and here you see east, and then you see left hand. East is on your left hand. We carved it in stone. We're not just carving it on a PowerPoint. I also want to show you west, carved in stone. This is your west. This is your Uminet, the west. And then you can also see this on temples. This is a temple of Khonsu associated with the moon, and there you see your east, there you see your west. So your east is on your left, your west is on your right. I hope you're following along.
Yes. Yes.
And I hope you understand that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Because if you you don't know that Kemet Matters, you're basically walking around upside down on your head. So we need to turn your right side up. Again, as I told you, that north is lower, and you can find that here, lower Egypt, and then this is the symbol of it. That's your delta, that's lower, and then also south is upper. So here you can see Resut here in the south, and then you also see Resut as upper Kemet. Let's continue. Now, in the email that I sent out something that Kemet Matters because we did so much. One of the things that we did in Kemet is that we invented writing. Let me show you some examples. So you see these brothers there, looking like, where do I have 3 brothers in a row? They're in the back. Just looking just like those 3 brothers in the row. See that? Those are brothers seated writing, which we invented. And this is the earliest writing system in the history of the planet. Earlier than Phoenician, earlier than cuneiform, anything else. That these samples date back to 3400 BCE, making them the oldest known examples not only of Kemetic writing, but of any writing. Because Phoenician writing dates to 3200. These go 200 years before that. So again, these dates challenge a commonly held belief that early logographs, pictographic symbols representing a specific place, object, or quantity first evolved into more complex phonetic symbols in Mesopotamia. So if you want to see the very first things ever written, there you go. Welcome to the family reunion. Because Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
I couldn't make this up even if I wanted to. And then also you can see that Medunetter is a source of non-African writing systems. So the Greek and the Latin alphabets are derived from Medunetter, the divine sacred words. So here you see Ah, this is what they call the Egyptian vulture, all the way developing, or let me say underdeveloping, or regressing into Greek and regressing into Latin. Here you see the Ba, regressing into Greek and regressing into Latin. Here you see K, regressing into Greek, regressing into Latin. D, that's the hand, regressing into Greek, regressing into Latin, and so forth and so on. I hope you're following along.
Yes.
And I hope this is showing you that Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
Oh, yes, it does. Now I'm going to take you to somewhere that's very close to my heart, warfare and combat sciences.
Right.
Because this is what we use against these white, fake, lying, evil pseudo-scholars who tell you all these black people standing right here, each one of them got locks on their head, is somebody white with a suntan. What do you do but take some warfare and combat sciences to them? And luckily we invented it. Now I see some of my capoeira students here in the house representing. Now this is the oldest record of combat science, and intentionally I don't say martial arts. Why do I not say martial arts? Who is Mars? Exactly. There you go. Some Eurasian butt crack of humanity, god of war. So why would we name something that's much older than Mars, or Rome, or the Greeks, or any of them? Why would we name something that predated them after them? There's a proverb that says, it's a silly daughter who tries to teach her mother how to bear children. It is a silly daughter who tries to teach her mother how to bear children. Mommy, this is how you do it. How do you think you got on the planet? So again, this is a detailed wrestling scenes in Tomb 15 of Baket III at Monet Khufu, what they now call Beni Hassan. You can read up a short article about that on abibi5hondia.com. That's our capoeira site. Abibi5hondia translating to African liberation, because if we want African liberation, we're going to have to reclaim some of these things. Now, look at this. You see this brother with the leg raised up here? Bam. Kicking him. You should know that even to this day, we're still doing that exact same thing. Except now we're calling it capoeira. So you see this brother with the leg raised up, and you see this non-African here waiting to get some. Bam! A back slap up across there, right back over the fence. So this is, they called this Negroes fight in 1824. This is by Augustus Earl depicting an illegal capoeira-like game in Rio de Janeiro. And this guy wants to stop this game that we're doing, and we're about to put that game on him. Very good. So also we invented combat sciences. what you now call martial arts. So instead of going and thinking about Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and all these Johnny-come-latelys, I want you, anytime you think about it, to think about your ancient African ancestors who brought this to the planet. 3000 BCE, that's 5,000 years ago. Beat that. But we continue. What else did we invent? We also invented law and morals. Who knows this beautiful sister right here? Ma'at. Wonderful. This is Ma'at. This is the first legal system and system of moral conduct on the face of the planet Earth. Older than so-called Hammurabi's code or any other code. So Ma'at represented truth, justice, righteousness, propriety, harmony, balance, order, and reciprocity. Those are the characteristics of the celestial sphere, the sky, and we replicated those on Earth. And the African ruler was the one who made sure that Ma'at happened on Earth. So if someone's trying to do something out of order, African power made sure that that thing got right back in order, representing Ma'at. And for those who may not know this, how you write Ma'at down. I don't want you to write this down. I want you to write this down. It would be a shame if we left here, this university, without knowing how to read and without knowing how to write. Ma'at. Also, along with that, we have 42 declarations of Ma'at. Because Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
So these 42 declarations of Ma'at, I have not done iniquity. I have not robbed with violence. I have not stolen. I have done no murder. I have done no harm. I have not defrauded offerings. I have not diminished obligations. I have not plundered the Neteru. That's the deities, the divinities. I have not spoken lies. So you can see these written, and again, you read towards the face of the characters. So you read going from right to left in this case. Meta-nature can be read going right to left to right, or top to bottom. Let's continue. Now, something familiar to you, you may be thinking, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Well, in university, you're not supposed to plagiarize. But all of that, thou shalt not plagiarize the 42 declarations of Ma'at. But that's exactly what happened. But not all 42. They said we can only do about 10. The rest of those are a bit difficult for our Eurasian evil behind, so we cannot do that. But number 9, I have not uttered evil words. Well, I'm only saying the truth. I have not caused pain. I have not committed fornication. I have not caused shedding of tears. I have not dealt deceitfully. I have not transgressed. I have not acted guilefully. I have not laid waste to the plowed land. I have not been an eavesdropper. I have not set my lips in motion against any person. So we continue, right? Now this isn't someone telling you thou shalt not. This is after you die, you have to be able to proclaim all of those things in order to get to Dawat, in order for your heart to be judged. Anyone who thought that Judgment Day was something that came with the Bible, this was the original judgment. And you can see that scene with the heart being weighed against the feather of Ma'at, right? And Asar coming here to be the judge, Ma'at up top. We continue. What else do we have? I have not been angry and wrathful except for a just cause. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Those in the back want to drop off to sleep. I'm going to make you keep saying Kemet
Matters.
Very good. I have not been angry and wrathful except for a just cause. Well, this is a just cause because I'm so angry that these white pseudo-scholars have been telling you all these black people ain't black. All right? I have not defiled the wife of any man. I have not been a man of anger. I have not polluted myself. I have not caused terror. I have not burned with rage. I have not stopped my ears against the word of right and truth, Ma'at. I have not worked grief. I have not acted with insolence. I have not stirred up strife. I have not judged hastily. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
I have not sought for distinctions. I have not multiplied words exceedingly. I have done neither harm nor ill. I have not cursed the king, which was a violation of laws. I have not fouled the water. I have not spoken scornfully. And again, what's our analysis? This is the original. This is the plagiarized. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. Where'd you get it from? Thou shalt not steal my stuff from Kemet. I have not cursed the Neteru. I have not stolen. I have not defrauded the offerings of the Neteru. I have not plundered the offerings of the blessed dead. I have not filched the food of the infant. I have not sinned against the Neter of my native town. And then I have not slaughtered with evil intent the cattle of the Neteru. That's very important. That's very powerful. If you want to see a copy of the 442, you can go to the Institute of African Studies, because my daughter Amashi donated a poster of my aunt to the Institute of African Studies, because there's so many people who are graduating and have no knowledge of self. Send them back to level 100. Also, medicine. Look at these Africans doing medicine. This is an original so-called papyrus here, boom, doing dentistry. And this is one of my favorite Africans. Who does he look like? Who does he look like in here? Brother Imhotep, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you are here. This brother unassuming, just sitting there just the same, got something on his lap. You see? This is Imhotep, and this is the Imhotep papyrus. This is the oldest known surgical treatise on trauma in the history of the entire planet Earth. Surgery, over 3,000 years ago. And we have this document showing you exactly how to do surgery. So does anyone want to do surgery? Does anyone here study medicine? If you want to know how, start reading, because your ancestor wrote it down for you so you would never forget. All right? Also, this was misnamed by Eurasians after the thief of the papyrus. You'll find that this is a trend. Anytime they steal something, they name something after the thief. Yes. This is going to be an important point, because we're going to return back to this idea of the thief and whether or not you can trust the thief. So Imhotep was the deified father of medicine, great architect, mathematician, ruler, also the world's first multi-genius. How many people here have heard of Imhotep before? That's a good number. Has anyone ever heard of Einstein before? You don't want to raise your hands, you're ashamed. You should be ashamed for talking yourself. You should be ashamed for those white pseudo-scholars who you give us a capoeira slap. If you don't know how to do a proper capoeira slap, come Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I teach capoeira. I will show you how to do the proper one. Also, we invented what else? Mathematics. All right? And again, you can see each one of these segments represents a particular fraction. So we'll take it to the Ames Papyrus, treatise on mathematics. This has 20 arithmetic and 20 algebraic problems. You can see what it looks like, and you can see the brother who wrote it. Fractional expressions, completion, second problems, linear equations, the aha problems. When you get something right, you say aha, or maybe aha. Your aha problems, prime numbers, geometry problems, multiplication of fractions, and this particular copy is dated to 1550 BCE, but the original, this was copied from an earlier one, which dates back to the reign of Amenemhat. That means Amen in the front. 1860 BCE to 1814 BCE. And again, this was erroneously named by Eurasians after the thief of the text, Alexander Rin. So if you do a search for it, you have to do a search for Rin Papyrus. Why don't you name it after the author instead of the one who stole it? All right? Because we know Rin ain't write that. And this one, this is another papyrus which is even older than the original text, 1850 BCE, dating this, the original one is 1850, this particular copy dates to the 13th century. 25 problems, it has the aha problems, the geometry problems, has a calculation of pi. And I'm not talking about the type you eat, no, I'm not saying the meat pie, we're not calculating that one. This is the number. And again, this one is mistakenly called the Dolinichev or the Moscow mathematical papyrus after its thief, and where his thief came from. So why would we call it after the thief instead of the place where it came from, Waset, so-called thieves? Right? So we should not accept things that these evil, conniving, lying, stealing, cheating, perpetrating a fraud, pseudo-scholars tell us to call it, because it makes no sense. We continue. And why do we continue? Because Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Is anyone learning anything so far? Yeah. I hope we're learning something. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Now you may wonder, well, how did Kemet just come up with all of these things, these Africans in Kemet, how did they come up with this? Well, you have to go deeper into the interior of Africa to find the source of this information. Just the prime numbers that we saw on those papyri, you can find those exact same prime numbers dating back to 37,000 and 25,000 years ago, respectively. That's a long time. We've been doing mathematics for 37,000 years. Are you listening to me? High mathematics. So here you see the Limbombo and the Ishango bones. Here you see the left and right columns contain an odd number of notches. 9, 11, 13, 17, 19, and 21. These are significant numbers, indivisible numbers. You also have numbers in the first column, the 4 prime numbers between 10 and 20. Boom. This also shows us counting by digits, time reckoning, following the course of the moon over a period of about 5.5 synodic or lunar phase cycle months, based on a period of double lunation, 59 to 60 days. It also shows evidence of the original base 10 number system. When you're counting 10, 20, Edu, Aduno, Adiasa, this is where it comes from. No one on the planet was doing base 10 before we started it. And it goes back 37,000 years at least. All right? It also shows prime numbers multiplication by doubling. And it's interesting that both of these were carved out of the fibula of a baboon. Why a baboon? Because a baboon has an association with the moon. It howls at the moon at specific times. So because all of these mathematical calculations are associated with lunar months, the precession of the lunar months. So what would you use in order to carve this but the animal most closely associated with those months? And in ancient Kemet, Jehuti, the deity, the Necha, was also associated with the baboon and the ibis bird. So Jehuti associated with baboons and the ibis bird in Kemet was credited with the foundation of mathematics. Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet?
Matters, matters.
How many people did well in math class? How many people think you would do better in math class if you knew that you invented it? See, me, I started off in engineering. I was president of National Society of Black Engineers in my high school class, but I decided, you know what, I don't want to do engineering, I want to do something to help black people. Little did I know engineering could also help black people, but now I will teach engineers this and send them to build things that help black people. Again, if you knew you invented mathematics, perhaps you would have gotten a better grade in your math class. And again, the god Thoth, or Jehuti as he was called by the people of Kemet, was originally a moon deity, Necha, who eventually came to be associated with writing and knowledge to preside over scribes and scholars of all types. That's all of us who are here. Importantly for his mythology, Thoth, or Jehuti, was said to have invented the art of writing. He was thus the scribe of the Indian who recorded the divine words, Medu Necha, and this is how you can write Jehuti. I hope everyone knows how to write Jehuti already. If you don't, get to memorize it. This is Jehuti represented again by the ibis bird. This is the Jehuti, this is again T, this is E, and then this lets you know we're talking about someone divine. All right? And he was also responsible for all kinds of accounts and records, mathematics. What else did we invent? I'm going to give you a 3-for-1 in this one. We also invented philosophy, moral instruction, and political science. And let me give you an example. Okay, I have to turn so you can see me, right? All right. Got it? Got me? I hope you are getting me. Just need a breath of fresh air, smell of flower. All right, so this is the instructions of Ptah-hotep. This is the oldest surviving book in the history of humanity, complete text. Even though we wrote, now you just don't start off writing books on philosophy right there. There are books that were older that only survive in fragments because the thieves put most of them in the Vatican, in the London. So these are the ones that we can access. I have a colleague, Nikwatel Wo, who has a documentary called You Hide Me, where he was able to get into the basement of the London Museum and show all of these artifacts that these thieves stole from us African people. And there's more in the basement than there is on display. You can look him up for that documentary. So this dates to 2880 BCE, moral instructions of philosophy of politics and social interactions, the instructions of Ptah-hotep. Myself and my daughter are translating this into Twi right now, so she should be published by the time she is 8. And then you can also read it in an indigenous African language. That's You Hide Me. You Hide Me. Also, history. Let's show you. Recently, the Ghanaian author Aikwe Arma, or I shouldn't say Ghanaian, I should say African author, Aikwe Arma and the Shimsu Bak translated the history, the biographical historical account of Sanhat. And this is how you can write his name, Sanhat. All right? And they translated it into Akan, into Fansi, into Kiswahili, Kikongo, Wolof, and Zulu, as well as English, French, and Portuguese. And I'm happy to say that because of this, I was able to read the entire account of Sanhat and Fansi from beginning to end. This is 343 pages. But it's laid out in such a way that you can decide to go through and read only the Wolof, or decide to go through and read only the Kikongo or whatever language that you know. And it's a very important historical account where he recounts all of these details that happened in his life. You know, how there was strife in Kemet, how he went into Southwestern Asia, how he attained glory there, and how he eventually came back and then recorded and transcribed all of his great deeds. So if you want to know about an ancient story, don't look at Homer, Iliad, Odyssey, all of that Johnny-come-lately BS newspaper crap. Go to actual ancient things. Sometimes they say ancient Greece and ancient Rome. I say that is barely the blink of an eye. How do you call that ancient? I might as well say ancient last week. Also, we invented agricultural science. Now you see these brothers? Now what the evil European pseudo-historians will do, they'll take an image from the time that the Greeks came in, show you a picture of a white-looking guy and say, look at the ancient Egyptians. Or they'll show you a time where the Romans came in and stole things, and they'll show you a carving of a Roman and say, look at the ancient Egyptians. Or the Assyrians or the Hyksos. This is what the people look like. And we also developed agricultural science. Does anyone know that? And one of the tools that we use to perfect the science was what they call the Nilometer. And this is Hapi. This is what they call the Nile to this day. And this was a measuring instrument. You can see the notches, right? And it showed the height of the inundation, the flood, to predict whether there would be a famine because there's not enough silt being deposited, or whether there would be an overflow of destructive floods. If it was low, there would be a famine. If there's too much, there would be floods. Also, there are markings to show height, and then also to show the optimal level for fertile soil for agriculture. So we're not just happenstance saying, well, maybe it will grow, maybe it won't grow. This is scientific agriculture. Also, we did architecture. Because I'm coming to the Archaeology Department, I always try to highlight the architecture because I think this is something that would be very interesting to you all specifically. So again, we did our architecture. We didn't just say, let's throw Malcolm there, let it fall down. We would orient specific buildings to specific times where the sun will be at the lowest point in the sky, because we knew that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Matters. I told you we have to do this called functional. We're Africans. And this is how you write Ra. This is the word for, one of the words for the sun in ancient Kemet. Now we did things based on solar orientation. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
For the time when the hours in the day and the night are the exact same at the equinox, and then the winter solstice where the sun is at its lowest point, and then the summer solstice where the sun is at its highest point, and there are more hours in the daytime. This one, there are more hours in the nighttime. I hope you're following along. Because Kemet
Matters.
So these are very important dates. I want you to pay particular attention to this one, December 21st or 22nd. This is where the winter solstice will happen. This is going to be an important date for you. And we did our orientations of temples in Kemet, land of the black people, based on the equinox, the solstice, season, salt deck, that's what we call Sirius, the star system, Canopus, meridian, and then the quarter cardinal family. And I'll show you examples. The first thing I want to show you is the pyramids were not just thrown up any place, but they were thrown up in such a place where here, only at this point in time, you can see Akhet. Now, Akhet is the horizon, and we refer to the Sphinx as Hor Em Akhet, Horus or Heru on the horizon. So you see him? And it was depicted as the sun between two mountains. So viewed from the Sphinx at the time of the summer solstice, that's when the hours in the day are longer than the hours in the night. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
So only at the summer solstice is where you can see the sun is at the greatest distance from the celestial equator. It sets directly in between the pyramids of Khufu and Khafre. thus riding across the horizon and Akhet, this on the scale of acres. This is a clear reference to Horus Heru, the god of the Akhet sign, because anyone approaching from ancient Memphis would have seen the head of the Sphinx silhouetted between the two pyramids. Now, what type of mathematics do you have to know to be able to do that on such a monumental scale that only at this specific date do I set up everything so you can see something looking like this? And this is again here in 2006 as it appeared. And you find the same thing in the book of Coming Forth by Day. We'll return to that because Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters. Matters, matters.
Well, don't you fall asleep. I'm telling you some important stuff. All right, so here you see the Akhet symbol. And again, you see the two lions. And these are now extinct lions. They look like leopards, but they're spotted lions. And it says, I am yesterday and I know tomorrow. What is that? Yesterday is Osiris, that's Osar. Tomorrow is Ra. The sun at the horizon between the two Archaeology lines called yesterday and tomorrow. So this is coming from the book of Coming Forth by Day. Has anyone ever heard of the Bible before? Anyone? Okay, 1, okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 people. That Bible you heard of is plagiarized wholesale from this. All right? Stolen. When I say plagiarized, I mean stolen. At universities, you're not supposed to plagiarize. You're supposed to give credit, but they stole from here. I'll show you. And this is again the book of Coming Forth by Day, also called the book of Emerging Forward into the Light. This is a Peri Heru, the book of Coming Forth by Day. What Europeans call it is the book of the dead. That's because they're dead in the head. Don't follow them. Again, I want to show you something about the architecture. Now, what do you notice about the architecture here? You'll see that the sun's light rays are going straight into Ra Horakati. And you see that at dawn on the 22nd of February 2004, the light of the rising sun enters the Sancta Sanctorum of the main temple of Abu Simbel. Here, this is what's important. The first rays illuminate the figures of Amun-Re, that's this one, the divinized king, that's this one, and the shoulder of Re Horakati. When the light progresses, the figure of Re Horakati receives the first, and this is the sun itself, receives the first, the full, and afterwards the last rays of the sun. So it comes here, and then the very last ones. This marvelous hierophany may have occurred at the beginning of the Peret and Shemu seasons of the ancient Egyptian calendar during the first decades of the reign of Ramesses II, the temple builder. Now, how do you build something such that all of these deities that are representing the sun get the light rays? But then you have Ptah, who represents the netherworld, staying in the darkness. You know the math and the astronomy you have to know to calculate it such that the ones that represent the sun get the light rays. The one who represents the darkness stays in darkness. Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
How many people think that if the builders of the Malcolm that fell down, if they knew about this, do you think they would build buildings that fell down? Because this building is still here to this day.
What's the significance of the date?
Of the dates.
February 22nd.
Because this is the date of where you can see it. Not every day do you see this. So at the beginning of what in ancient Kemet we call the Peret and the Shemu seasons is when this happens. So this is something that you calculate when in the day is the earth going to be in such an orientation that the sun will shine directly into this at this specific angle. I hope y'all follow me. How many people think that your houses would look a little bit better if you knew this? Instead of concrete blocks. This is built in stone. So here you have another one. And you see here at the winter solstice, this is December 21st, 2006, winter solstice. And you see again, as the sun rises, its light moves to the north, illuminating the small shrine. This is where it was before it was stolen. To the right of the sanctuary, and the niche to the left, where the mummy, which is again the underworld aspect, the one that's not supposed to get light, of the deity was presumably located, and it always remains in darkness. So again, you build your houses such that things that represent light get the light, and things that represent darkness stay in darkness. You have to know how the earth is moving in relationship to the sun to do that, which is also why you invented the year. We're not there yet. Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
Oh, I think you're starting to believe it if you say it. And then again, here you see something else at the winter solstice. Today, as 3,350 years ago, the colossi of Memnon still face sunrise at the winter solstice, as did the million-year temple of King Amenhotep III, who we saw earlier, and his descendants are right here in front of us. And again, these are the colossi of Memnon, as they are called, and they face right here where the sun will set at the winter solstice. Only at that time do you see it right there in between. I hope y'all following me. Good. Now, behind them, in this direction, was the largest and most magnificent temple, or I should even say blacknificent temple, that was. All right? Here again, the axis of the small temple of the sun disk deity, Aten Atel El Amarna, is oriented to a particular cleft at the horizon, actually the valley where the royal tomb was excavated, where the sun rises in late February and October, representing the ancient name of the city Akhetaten, the horizon of Aten, the sun. So this is not happenstance. They said, not only are we going to build the temple such that it shows exactly where that is, but this, in the background, that cleft in the horizon, is where they put the tomb. So we knew all of these orientations, and we built everything in exact alignment because of Ma'at. You want to be in alignment with the celestial sphere. We'll come to that. Now, again, out of 330 ancient Kemetic temples, you find that the highest number out of 330 are pointing directly to the east, the equinox. This isn't just, oh, maybe that's intentional. I hope you're following along. Because Kemet,
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet,
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet.
Matters, matters.
I'll throw that one in on you. Also, you see that the second highest number are oriented directly towards the winter solstice. I hope you're following along. So again, these are statistically significant peaks near due east, the equinoctial sunrise, or due north orientations later skewed by 90 degrees, and winter solstice sunrise. There are also clear peaks at northeast and southeast. These are indisputable evidences of intentional astronomical orientations. Is the Department of Archaeology oriented towards any of these? How many people think that if we had this information, we would have oriented towards something? I think so. But not only based on where the sun was, we also did architecture based on where stars were. So again, when we look at temple orientations, here you have the temples of the goddesses, the female Neteru, that they are mostly aligned towards salt depth, what they call Sirius. Why? Well, there's a very important female Neter who is, or Neteret as it was called, who is associated with Sirius. We'll come to that. Also, others are aligned to Canopus. And then here, for the ones that are associated with the solar deities, the highest ones occur at the solstices, dealing with when the sun is going to be at its highest point and at its lowest point. So when we have deities, Neteru, who are associated with stars, we orient things towards the stars. We have Neteru that are associated with the sun, we orient them towards what? Oh, yes. Kemet, Kemet!
Matters, matters.
Kemet, Kemet, Kemet!
Matters, matters.
Kemet! Good. So again, you see the most significant peak corresponding to the Sopdet family and the equinoctial and solstitial peaks associated with the solar deities. This isn't just mistakes. Then you can also see this at the temple to Het Heru and Unet Dendara and Hathor. So you see this one goes to Mesketiu, which is a constellation, and this one goes towards Sirius. All right? This isn't just, let's just do something. Right? Now again, here you see this is Sirius, and it's a twin star system. The Dogon said there's a third one that they don't even know about yet. That may be over here. But that one hasn't even been discovered, and Europeans didn't even know that existed until they were able to get some telescopes and say, oh wow, that does exist. I thought it was just one star. But again, the Dogon people knew this, and where did they know it? Because even everything about paleontology, archaeology shows us that the oldest human beings on the face of the planet were along that Nile Valley basin. So then it just becomes a question of when did you leave? All right? So this is going to be very important for us. Here you see Sa, that's what they call Orion. If you ever look out and you see these 3 stars in a row, that's what we're talking about. And those 3 stars point directly towards Subdet or Sirius. This is going to be extremely important. I hope you're following along.
Yes.
Are you following along?
Yes.
Are you really following along?
Yes.
Good. So we'll come back to that. Again, in the temple dedicated to Subdet, here you find the image of Subdet associated with the star. This is how you write Subdet. And then here you find Sa, and this is how you write Sa. Again, so this is one of several monuments oriented towards Sirius and the geography of ancient Kemet. So not only do we orient things towards them, we make sure we carve it in stone so that you know we're not doing this by mistake. This is Subdet. Kemet
Matters.
Now, what is significant is Subdet or Sirius was associated with Set, Isis. We're not talking about those Arab paradox stuff. We're talking about Set, the original one. So Subdet was associated with one of the main principal Neteret, the female deities of ancient Kemet. That's important. Asar and Sa, or Orion, were also associated together. All right? These are the first 2 of your Holy Trinity coming there. All right? So the constellation deity was thus connected with the star Sophis or Subdet from an early date, and the 2 came to be viewed as manifestations of Osiris and Isis, respectively. So we have the father, we have the mother, now we're waiting on the son. Now I'm not talking about Father, Holy Ghost, and no BS. Nope. And also spirituality. We started today with a libation. Here you can see, this is Jehuti mess here pouring libation. Here I can see the very bottom of the ibis bird. This is Jehuti, then this is the mess. And you can see him pouring libations here. So if you thought that, oh, let's just pour something out on the block, I just invented that myself. Let's go back a few thousand years and see where it came from. So we're going to come back to what I mentioned before, but here we find the book of emerging forth into the sunlight, Peret Im Heru, as you saw earlier. So the idea of judgment, has anyone ever heard of divine judgment? This is the very first idea of divine judgment. And here you see Ma'at there on the scale. She is the scale herself. The first idea of an afterlife, the first idea of salvation, resurrection of the soul, moral concepts of good and evil, also the 42 declarations of Ma'at, from which the so-called 10 Commandments were plagiarized. All of that comes from Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
That's what I like to do. And then also, as I mentioned, I told you I wasn't going to leave you hanging. This is the Holy Trinity. Set, Asar, and Heru, the mother, the father, and the son. So this is, in the literature, as allegory for the sun's movements, the original Holy Trinity. Let me give you more examples. So, has anyone ever heard of the virgin birth? Anyone ever heard of that? All that story was to tell you about how the cosmos actually works. All right? So here you see an image of Asar laid out. He's been killed, and she assembled all the parts except for the Teken, which is his phallus. So she constructed an obelisk, what they call an obelisk, that's like the Washington Monument. She transformed herself into a kite, and from that she was impregnated. And here you see Heru, which represents the son who has been born of that virgin birth. So any other virgin birth story that you hear about, it comes from this original one. Anyone who can look up at the sky knows what we're talking about here. Because again, Asar, who's laying here, was associated with Orion's belt. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. Are you following me?
Oh, yes.
So this belt is associated with Asar, who's laying here. This Sirius is associated with Set, who has been transformed into a kite. So now we need the sun part of the equation. All right? And again, in the literature, they say, Isis comes to you rejoicing through love of you. Your seed issues into her. She being ready as Sophis, this is Subdet, Sirius. Her sucked has issued from you in his name of Horus, who is in subject. Again, Horus means the sun. Are you following me? Are you okay?
Yes.
Do you know that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet?
Matters.
Well, it will interest you to know that at the winter solstice, remember that occurs on about December 21st, 22nd, right? That at that time the sun is at its lowest point in the sky from perception of the northern hemisphere. Are you following me? The sun is at its lowest point, and it stays there perceptibly for 3 days. This is a metaphor. It means that the sun has died, it stays there for 3 days, and then what will happen? Resurrection. And I have application on my phone. A few years ago, I used Google Sky Map in order to see exactly what this was. And behind where the sun is going to rise, you'll see the Crux constellation. So when you say that the sun died, stayed dead for 3 days, and was resurrected on the 3rd day, you can even see the cross symbolism there. So December 22nd, dead, 23rd, dead, 24th, dead, and then it rises. And the days get longer and longer until they are equal at what you celebrate as Easter. So now you are going to church and praying to imaginary white people when you should be looking at what the sun is saying the days are now longer than the nights.
What's that app?
Google Sky Map. And what's so good about it is that you can even point it at the ground. You can see the stars that are on the other side of the earth. You understand? So you can see where the sun is going to rise in the southeast. And again, you can see exactly what we're seeing here. So has anyone ever heard of a story of 3 kings, shepherd kings, who go and see, they follow a star in order to see the birth of the sun? Has anyone ever heard anything like that? Yeah. Has anyone ever just looked up at the sky around that time? If you did, you would see that on December 25th, those stars point to Sirius. This is Asar, this is Aset, and then this is their child Heru, the sun. I hope you're following me. Yes. I hope you're following me. Yes. Because this will help you understand why Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet. That's not all we did. We also invented these, what we call Mer, or Flor Meru. These are the pyramids. Now before we go into the science of the pyramids, it's helpful to know who built the pyramids. Now I've been hearing some people talking behind my back. I've been hearing some lies. I've been hearing people tell me that some fake imaginary Hebrew slaves built these pyramids. And I don't like it. Because carved into stone are the Africans who actually built it. And they were organized into groups with names such as the Friends of Khufu, the Beloved of Ptah. They were organized and they're buried right there next to those pyramids. These are not these white people you've been seeing in movies having an exodus, and they're coming out with another movie and it's not already out, just to bring some more lies to you. So if you ever see the makers of those movies, I want you to get your capoeira slap on, you have to warm it up real nice, so that when it makes contact, boom, you can slap hot fire out of them. So again, these are the Africans who built the pyramids, and they were skilled builders, and they finished building the last pyramids long before the invasion of the Hyksos. The Hyksos are going to be very important for our understanding of what's going on here. I'll come back to that. Again, skilled builders and craftsmen. And they were so skilled that they made little air passages, so-called air passages. And what these so-called air shafts, they were inclined within 1 degree of accuracy to the northern celestial pole, to the 3 stars of Orion's belt to the south. So these are passages that come out within 1 degree of accuracy exactly to show this and this. But only at a specific point in time across thousands of years. And then they show Thuban, and then they show Orion, again associated with Asar. So again, this is the main star viewed through the northern shaft, and it turned around the circumpolars here. And the reason why is because these were seen as indestructibles and never set below the horizon. You can always see them no matter what time of the year it is. So they said that from this, it was for this reason that stars symbolize immortality, because they never set, they never died. And a soul which had chosen this path in life was said to ascend to the imperishable dominion of the northern heavens. Hope you're following me.
Yes.
Now, what type of math do you have to know to build an entire pyramid and orient it within 1 degree of accuracy to this specific star? Hope you're following me. Kemet, Kemet!
Matters.
Let's make sure you're awake. And the consequences of knowledge of Heru's movements is as a commonly accepted fact that the people of Kemet, so-called Egyptians, were responsible for the development of a 365 and 1/4 day year, a 24-hour day, and the second as a measure for the hour, as a unit of measure for the hour. Clues as to how this information was obtained can be found in the interior passages of the Great Pyramid, which were used as astronomical observatories for watching and clocking the heavens. So in ancient Kemet, we developed the 365-day year, 3 seasons, 120 days times 3, plus an annual New Year 5-day festival. And it would interest you to know that the New Year was celebrated then when it's celebrated now, at the harvest time. So when you're celebrating Ojura, Homo, whatever you're celebrating, all of these things are based on tangible things of what's going on and how the sun relates to the earth. We also developed astronomy because Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
So we also developed astronomy. So here with this, here you see the zodiac at Dendara, which was originally called Unut. So here you see this zodiac. There's a planisphere or a star map on a plane projection. It shows the 12 constellations, the so-called zodiac, and 36 decans of which had 10 days and comprised the first magnitude stars. The planets were also shown and they were used in a lunar cycle calendar of Kemet with 12 months of 30 days based on the heliacal rising of Sopdet. So all of these things, when they talk about the 12 disciples of the sun, it's talking about nothing but these 12 constellations. I hope you're following me.
Yes.
This is something called the precession of the equinoxes. And you find that when the sun is having all of these equinoxes where it rises in the equinox and stays there for over 2,000 years before it shifts to the next constellation out of those 12. So you're talking about the sun and his disciples. This is what you're actually talking about, the sun and the 12 constellations. I hope you're following me.
Yes.
Kemet!
Matters.
So if I catch you praying to imaginary white people, I will bring my Tupperware slap for you too. Stop that. And put some solar energy on your roof. So those shafts that we talked about, because of those shafts, and we know the specific stars they were oriented to, using that, different Egyptologists have dated the pyramids within about 100-year period, again, within 1 degree of accuracy. So Alexander Badawi did it to 2600 BCE, Robert Boval 2450, Mary Burke 2450, Kate Spence 2478. So again, they're saying the exact period, point in time where those shafts go to those stars within 1 degree of accuracy. That's how you know when the pyramids were built. I hope you're following me.
Yes.
Kemet!
Matters.
Now, not only were those pyramids aligned to the stars, they were also in alignment with other great pyramids of Giza. So these are the great pyramids, and you'll see that they are on a line. Now, how many people have wondered what that line points to? Anyone? Oh, we need you to be more curious. Good, one person. Well, those pyramids align to Unu, also called by the Greeks Heliopolis. So if you trace that line all the way up, it will point you to exactly where Heliopolis was. This is a city that's been destroyed and has been quarried for stones to build mosques and other things. So sad, right? Because this was one of the most significant cities in the history of ancient Kemet. All right? But not only were the Great Pyramids aligned with that, all of the other pyramids point again to this exact same place. This. All of those sites point to this as the center. Now, what type of mathematics do you have to know in order to orient your pyramids not only to the stars, but also to other things terrestrial on the land? I hope you're following me.
Oh, yes.
Because all of these things help you to understand why Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Very good. So this is archaeoastronomy. And again, these ones you can view Ilnu or Heliopolis from them. But this is a dotted line because you can't even view where these are. But these align again exactly towards Heliopolis. And they're beyond the field of vision. That means that you're using calculation. I hope you're following me. Very good, because Kemet
Matters.
Very good. And then also within the pyramids are our understandings of mathematics. So from dividing the perimeter of the pyramid's base by twice its height, it yields 3.1428, which is a working approximation of pi, often used by contemporary engineers in construction design. The area of the face of the Great Pyramid is also the same as the square of its vertical height. The square of the vertical height is the same as 1/2 of the pyramid's base width times its slant height. This fact indicates that the pyramid's design is in accordance with phi, 1.618, also called the golden number. So we're not just saying, let's build a pyramid because it looks pretty. We're saying we've done all these calculations because this is divine, sacred mathematics. Has anyone ever heard of Pythagoras?
Yeah.
Thief. This evil, beastly, just crawled out of a cave thief called Pythagoras. Why do I say that? Because the dimensions of the king's chamber, so-called king's chamber of the pyramid, 34 feet, 0.4 inches in length, 17 feet, 0.2 inches in width, and 19 feet, 0.1 inch in height. They are most significant because they express two ratios of so-called Pythagorean triangles. Now, what would we call after Pythagoras, who was thousands of years after this? Again, it's a silly doctor who tries to teach her mother how to bear children. Right? And again, these are 3, 4, 5. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The pyramid builders were obviously familiar with these sacred triangles thousands of years before Pythagoras was supposed to have introduced them. I hope you're following me.
Oh, yeah.
How many people think you would have done better in geometry class if you knew that you invented geometry? I think so. So again, you see all the great things that we built based on this sacred geometry.
Thank you.
He does look a bit like me. Let me get my side view on.
Look what else it does.
That's what I can know, but I'm keeping my nose on. Don't try to shoot it off. Very good. So this is Horaketsi. This is Horus of the Horizon. Also look at the great temples that we built. Now this one we brought stones to the temple. This one, the stones were already there. And this is Hatshepsut's funerary temple carved directly into the mountain. So we said, as opposed to bringing stones from somewhere else, let's just take a mountain and carve it up into perfect symmetry. Now, how many people think that we would build Malcolms that fall down if we knew that we built this before? Hope you're following me. That's why Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
If we knew that Kemet matters, people wouldn't have lost their lives because they would know that they have a standard to live up to. Again, look at these temples of Waset. And here you see the ramp. This is symbolic of Amen. Now, if you greet someone and that person is born on Saturday, there's a response for the Saturday born in Archaeology Department. So if I say Ma'ache, and you know I'm a Saturday born, you can say Ya Amen. That's that exact same Amen, what is often called Amen Ra. Amen representing the south, and then Ra representing Lower Kemet to the north. I hope you're following me. Very good. If anyone reads Conversations with Ogo Tumeli about the Dogon sage, he also talks about the significance of the ram with the calabash on its head. You can find that exact same ram in the solar disk in ancient Kemet. Again, look at the temples that we built. Here we have the big one and the little one. The little one is bigger than anything that you've ever seen. I hope you're following me. Because Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
So at some point we have to talk about when we go back and take our stuff back. Kemet means land of the blacks. So if you go to a place and you find that people who aren't black are on your land, what do? But you turn it back into land of the blacks by force. Hook or by crook. So we bring up the question because this is our topic for today, why Kemet matters. And now how do we know that Kemet matters? Now look at this brother here. Look at this brother. Now if this ain't an African, who got lips like this? They be trying to give themselves surgery just to try to get half of the lips like this. Who got a nose like this? Look at the nose. Now, who does this brother look like? Who does this brother look like? So how do we know that Kemet matters? Because if it didn't matter, there wouldn't be such a policy and campaign intentional of disinformation and misinformation. So now look at this evilness. Now this evil cave beast is supposed to be Imhotep,
Right.
looking like a cave beast. Now did Imhotep look like a cave beast? No, he's saying, who is that ugly white boy supposed to be? This is Imhotep, looking like you. This is Imhotep, looking like you. And this is, in case people want to know, this is how you write Imhotep. This is Hatep, and then this is Tep, Imhotep. All right? So, again, Imhotep, he's not pleased. He's not happy at it. He's looking at this evil wife. And matter of fact, 2 days ago, I had a busload of students who came from the Volta region. Right? And they came and I asked the question, which I often ask of my students, how many of you have ever heard of Imhotep? One hand went up. I said, wow. I had a little glimmer of hope in my eye. I said, what can you tell me about Imhotep? She said, Imhotep was an evil man who tried to kill the Pharaoh, and he was caught and sent into hell, and down there. I said, what type of disinformation?
Right.
Now, I didn't give her a hot slap, you know. Her teacher was there, but I didn't give her teacher a hot slap because there is an expression by Paulo Freire in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is that in a system of oppression, a teacher is either an enslaver or a liberator. So he's either duped himself or he's a duper. I figured he was duped himself and didn't know that information. So again, I corrected her and I told her who Imhotep was, the builder of the very first pyramid, the architect of it, the writer of medical papyri, the writer of mathematical papyri. And she had an entirely different view of Imhotep. So if he was actually white, now they try to say, oh, the Egyptians were just white people with suntan. If they actually believed that, then all you would hear about, oh, Imhotep was great, he did this, he did that, he did this, he did that. How come none of those students ever heard of Imhotep? Because they knew he was just as black as you. Right? That's one. Now, they have another movie coming out. And they talk about Moses in the Exodus, and they show all of these white, beastly looking, it looks like a dog show, and a portion of a dog show where they ask all the dogs to shave themselves and walk on their hind legs. Now, this is supposed to be Amos. Now, we know what Amos looks like because it's carved in stone. Look at him. Don't he look like me? He looks like he's just coming from capoeira class, like, man. And these are the Hyksos who are being expelled. Now, take it back to the mural of the races where you saw the 4 types of people, right? This is the Asiatic type being trampled underfoot because they came as invaders. And anytime these Asiatics ever came into Kemet, we did as best as we could to block them, or if they actually got in, we expelled them at the earliest opportunity. Now, whenever Nubians came, we were always trying to incorporate Nubians in to fight off these Asiatic looking like this. And looking like this, looking like all these folks here, right? Now, again, this is ancient Pan-Africanism because we're always trying to unite with other black people. And we're always trying to unite with other black people further to the south to fight off these folks. These folks. And look at Amos. Look at him. He still got locks just like this. So you was thinking it started with Bob Marley. We don't need no more trouble. All right? So again, the only story that you hear about this is what we call patent lies, bald-faced lies, misinformation, because they tell you that these so-called Hebrews were enslaved. First, we know they didn't build no pyramids. We already covered that before, right? That these came as invaders, and then Africans from further into the interior of Africa drove them out. Amos and Amos Nefertari, who you saw earlier, Black as 1,000 Midnights, drove them out. Right? And you can see again what he looks like. this is, I just want you to know this because they're coming out with another movie. And when you see this dog show here, I don't want you to get it twisted and think that the two-legged dogs had anything to do with anything here in Kemet. So here we go, Amos. So who was Amos, who we saw on the left-hand side? He expelled the Asiatic invaders that have cut his suit and reunited the two lands. However, for many people, all you know are outright lies and a biblical story of Exodus, rather than the historical expulsion of the enemies of African black people. So basically, they took the story when they came in and tried to rule us, and then we kicked them out. They inverted that story. They said, oh, we were enslaved, and now we were saved, and now we're the chosen people. These were invaders who were rightly kicked out. So because of that, many of us, inadvertently, we end up cheering for the evildoers. We end up cheering and say, oh yes, the Hebrews, don't get Pharaoh, he's so evil. This is intentional. So that even if you ever hear anything about Kemet, you'll want to dissociate, oh, Pharaoh is bad. Who is the bad one? They invaded our land and we kicked them out. So you end up cheering for the evildoers and against your own righteous African ancestors who expelled chaos in the form of Asiatics and restored order in Kemet, land of the black people. Also, it would interest you to know when people talk about Yah, you'll see things about Yahweh and Yah and Jehovah and all this. It would interest you to know that this is Yah, coming from Yah Mos, means born of the moon. The crescent moon has a sound body of Yah, and then this is Mis, born of. And that was the name of the ruler who kicked them out. And that's where you'll hear Moses, right? It means born of. Then you hear the Yah here is nothing but the prominent moon deity, Yah, from when the Hyksos invaders were expelled. So that's just a fragment of what they got when they were expelled, that they still retain the major deity that was there at the time. And then when you say Amen at the end of your prayers, you're talking about nothing but Amen here. All right? All of these things are to help you understand that Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Don't let these evil Eurasian pseudo-scholars try to tell you anything different because you can see it carved in stone.
Does that Yah have any connection with female Thursday born?
No, that is Asasiya, which is associated with the earth. This one is associated with the moon. So similar sounds, but different. Right? So here we find on the cover of National Geographic, they did a reconstruction of what is supposed to be King Tut, and rightly they said, this is the new face of King Tut, because it sure ain't the old face of King Tut, looking black, and he's like, who is this ugly little Arab supposed to be? He's like, dang, I'm busted, they got me. King Tutankhamun, who is a living image of Amun, he's not pleased at this Arab invader being depicted as him. Nor would you be. But these are things that you'll have to concern yourself about when you carry European names in this day and age. Because in 1,000 years from now, you will be wiped off of the historical record. They'll say you never existed and you are a white person. When you see all these billboards for skin lightening cream, they'll say there were never any black people on this land. There were always white people. Look at all the pictures, there are white people. When you see your hair straightened looking like a horse or a dog or a European, they will say that you never existed. So keep that in mind. So again, this is National Geographic. We don't call him Tutankhamun, we call him Tutank-Arab. And King Tut is not happy about this. Again, Kemet matters because if you don't know Kemet matters, you'll be thinking that this little Arab and white boy constructed the pyramid that they had absolutely nothing to do with. Hi! You ain't have nothing to do with that. Get off my land of black people. And here you see the actual builders of the pyramid are not very happy about that. They looking black like men, they looking mad. They got all their stuff to build with. They're like, no, we're about to take it to them. Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Kemet
Matters.
Thank you very much. So now let's take it to conclusions. So first off, we found that you are not told anything about Kemet, land of black people. So first is disinformation. If I ask you, okay, who is Jehudi Messon? What did he do? A lot of you will be found wanting. If I ask you, who is Amos Nefertari? Who is Narmer? Who are all these people you will be found wanting? But if I ask you, who's Queen Victoria? The hands will shoot up. If I ask you, who's Ptahhotep? You don't know. Who is Shakespeare? I know. Who is Imhotep? You don't know. Who is Einstein? I know. So this is disinformation, right? Because if they were actually dark-skinned white people, those are the only names you would ever hear about in life. But they know what it is. And again, the little that you are told show white people, and I'll put that people in quotes, rampaging white mummies and bald-faced lies in the form of biblical stories, misinformation. So the Bible that is half plagiarized and half lies, I would advise you to take the paper from it and use it for something else, like wiping places. Actually, I can't say wipe, because then it would make your booty stupid. So don't use it for that, just throw it to the side. So again, the bald-faced lies in the form of biblical stories that tell you that these are some white Hebrews who did blah, 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 lies and other things of plagiarism to make you distance yourself from your own great African ancestors and ancestral legacy. So first they don't tell you anything, but then they cut you off at the pass. So that if you ever decide, oh, let me start learning about Kemet, you say, oh, I don't want to know about that. Because the book that the people who came to enslave me and colonize me, that book told me that my ancient African ancestors were enslavers and did this and did that. This is intentional. Kemet
Matters.
So again, if Kemet did not matter, there would not be such a concerted, systematic, and intentional campaign of disinformation and misinformation. So Kemet, land of black people, matters because when African black youth wake up to the truth of their ancient African ancestral past, they will change the world. And obviously some people don't want to change the world. They don't want the world to change, but they would rather prefer for it to stay upside down. However, some of us are here to turn it right side up. I hope you're following. Hopefully you will be part of those who are going to help turn it right side up again. So remember I told you about the thief. Naming stuff after the thief. And the same thief, they have something called a museum. And what this is a place where they take all of the things that they stole and put it. Now, you have no genetic link to the people who made that thing. But you stole it and you put it in London, you put it in Paris, Paris, and you are happy about that. So now, when those same exact thieves come to tell you about Kemet, will you believe them?
No.
I would advise you not to, because the thief does not have your best interest at heart. Let me repeat that. The thief does not have your best interest at heart. Let me share a proverb in Yoruba. It said, it said, the thief says he will help you fix the doors to your house. You're happy. You're also not suspicious. What type of idiot listens to the thief who says he is going to help educate you about ancient Kemet? As soon as you see one of these white pseudo-scholars, you can do one of two things. You can turn the other cheek, but if you turn the other cheek, you're never sure what that cheek is, and they will try to probably sodomize you because you turn the other cheek. Watch all of your cheeks. Don't turn your cheeks towards these directions. So, you can either turn the other cheek and ignore them, or you can warm up some hot fire for them and smack the hot fire out of those European pseudo-scholars who, in the face of genetic evidence, linguistic evidence, iconography evidence, historical evidence, literature evidence, melanin evidence, and all the other evidence that shows that these are African people, they will still try to tell you that these are white people. So I would advise you to come to capoeira class and learn how to smack hot fire out of those pseudo-historians. And then also, I will leave you with a few thoughts. The first of them is African champions must break the chain that links African ideas to European ones and listen to the voice of the ancestors without European interpreters. That means you have to read about ancient Kemet in Medu-Neter. Don't read the translations. I just read an excellent article by my teacher of Medu-Neter, Dr. Mario Biggie. He's the head of ASCAC, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. And in the article, he was correcting translations that Europeans did of the instructions of Ptahhotep. If you recall, that's the oldest book in the history of human beings. And they talk about how in these lines of Ptahhotep, it talks about how a man is supposed to treat his wife if he wants to be excellent. Now, all these white so-called pseudo-scholars, they say, oh, the first portion of this passage, it shows positive representation of women in ancient Kemet, but after that, it's all negative. Now, he corrects them to show that where they think it changes, it doesn't change. It says, do not restrain your wife, withhold her, try to keep her back. Now, these are on two lines. They say, it says, do not restrain your wife. Then the rest they say, hold her back, keep her silent. They said, no, this is all one line saying don't do any of those things. You understand? But if you actually could read the Medu you would know for yourself and not be dependent on English translations translated by people who are the Ole, who is saying he's going to help you fix the doors to your house. And then also some thoughts to take with you. There's a quote that says, he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activity. That means if your diameter is this big, your activity is going to be this big. If your diameter is this big, your activity is going to be this big. But if your diameter is as wide as the planet Earth, then this becomes Abibibiasi, the black global African world. Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters, matters.
Kemet
Matters.
And then also the idea that what you do for yourself here depends on what you think of yourself. Look at this sister with her locks looking like my daughter. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. What you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you have been told. So now you've been told something, so I'm expecting you to do different things for yourself. All right? So in conclusion, dua. Eshe fubo, mesdames, messieurs. Yanajef, asantini sana, matondo mamingi. Thank you very much.
I think we've ended the degree here, right? Yeah, so if you want to learn more, just go to the website, Afrikan or Abidusomekasa website, and you can learn a lot more. I know you have a lot of questions, but let's just give yourself a modern reader. We have an inspirational spoken word artist, and she's going to just give you a piece for us to relax with. She's Sabuki.
And the title of my poem is My Black Man is Not a Zombie.
Like this.
The African mesomorph. His muscles large and shoulders wide, well built from side to side, his six-pack so strong and can be seen across the stomach. My black man. My African black man. The strength he possesses cannot be compared to an eagle, a homo sapien who is not feeble, but it's so unfortunate while Mr. White is fighting him with all his might. He was sold to a man of his kind, just because the man was low, and he stood so low because he had nothing to show. Oh no, way back in the 18th century, during the discovery of the New World, when they needed people to work on their so-called plantations, they chose my black man. My African black man. He was given little food, little shelter, little sleep. He was sick and tired of those unscrupulous, lazy men who left him to die and to be at the mercy of wild animals. He was captivated with chains and shackles. He sat in a 3 feet 3 inches dungeon, his body tattooed with a hot brand and iron. You saw, you bore, and drilled his flesh. He was a zombie. My black man was a zombie. Now we're in the 21st century. My black man is no more a zombie. To hell with you, Mr. Rooney, because all you do is to turn east and west in your swivel chair, or bring him here and there. You so not fair. The shocking part of it all is when you mention his name wrongly. He is Kofi, but you call him Kofi. Your father changed his name to Toby, Mr. Rooney. My black man, my African black man, is not a zombie. My favorite color is black, not because I'm black, but my soul cries, my soul sings a sorrowful song because of what my black man went through and what he's going through. I'm not trying to earthquake memories, but my black man was denied to cross some territories. He was denied a cup of water, yes, a cup of water just because he's black. Whenever he opens his mouth to speak, he's shouting out for civilization. Civilization, my nose, I am getting bored by the echoes of Madiba. Martin Luther King Jr. keeps me holding on. But I'll continue to javelin the truth. My black man, my African black man, is not a zombie. Some keep the black man discussed. That's it.
So Dr. Kambon is going to show a poem as well. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, going back to the theme that we were talking about, why Kemet Matters, but then also why you should not trust your enemy. The people who stole all of your things, when they say that they are coming to fix your doors, you should never believe them. This is a poem that I wrote about 10 years ago. I don't have it memorized, unfortunately. But I would like to share it with you along those same ideas. And it's in Chi, and it has a translation in English, so I'll read the Chi first, and then I'll read the English. And it's called Otampo Chere Kwanya. Otampo Chere Asia, Onim Nebo Taye, Otampo Man François, Onim Dia Obedru, Otampo Chere Kwanya, Onim Dia Obedru, Onim Dia Obedru. So what coffee quite home, and the Onya or Homebine that thou also. And you will be a select show, or your damful. And you will be a select show, or your doffo, and see Onya or Homebine that thou also. Of Tampo Mao Bibia, Unim dear Obenya. Of Tampo Jow Bibia, Unim dear Obefa, Unim dear Obepa, Unim dear Ebeba. And see Onya or Homebine that thou also. And you will be our threat travel, or you are downfall. And you will be our threat shower, or you are doffo, until on your bow combine that thou most. For ye, dear, now transport in a Honda. More than some pop or 10 3 more than. Until on your bow combine that thou most. And you will be our threat travel, or you are downfall. And you will be our threat shower, or you are doffo, until on your bow combine that thou most. On your Copasachi, a more and Roman qua. Obi Pro Kumwa was one brain qua. And your Biana, or Mau Bibi, they were done for. Abwa or walk on your downfall, on your tamful, and see on ya or home buying that thou musu. On ya or home buying that thou musu. So this is a translation. When the enemy shows the way, and that's the title. When the enemy explains, he knows his objectives. When the enemy walks on the path, he knows where he is going. When the enemy shows you the way, he knows where you'll be going. He knows what you will see. He knows that you've taken a worthless path. So kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared. Because it's not everyone that smiles at you that is your friend. It's not everyone who gets up to greet you that's your lover. So kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared. When the enemy gives you something, she knows what she will obtain. When the enemy leaves something for you, she knows what she will get. She knows what she will pick. She knows what will come about. Considerations of your welfare never enter into the head of the enemy. And blood is never absent from the head of the chichi fly, like a big mosquito. So kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared. Because it's not everyone who smiles at you that is your friend. It's not everyone who gets up to greet you that is your lover. So kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared. The vulture doesn't go roaming about for nothing. If someone wants to kill you, shouldn't you also strive for life? It's not everyone who gives you a gift that is your benefactor. The snake is no friend of yours. He is your enemy. So kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared. Kinfolk, protect yourself and also be prepared.
Thank you very much. Now we'll take just about 5 questions because it's getting late. So
left out one very important thing that he contributed to, like the Asian music.
Yes.
I think it's well known that the Moors took him into Europe, where he became classical. And another revelation that I also got very recently is that the person who actually took what we call martial arts now into China was somebody called the Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma studied the movements of animals and how they fought on his way from Kemet to India. So martial arts actually got to India first before they got to China or to another part of the world. And he developed the martial arts of the Indian martial arts, as we know them, and all the others, before he moved on to China, where he developed Kung Fu. So now he's still worshiping in China as a deity. Jehuti or Thoth was apparently also actual living being who was one of the first people to travel from Kemet and establish the civilizations of the old men in South America. And the line that you showed aligning the pyramids to Helios actually leads all the way to South America, where other pyramids align to the same direction.
This is very good to come up front. Actually, Dr. Charles Finch of the Morehouse School of Medicine, he came to my parents' bookstore center, and he was going to give a presentation. He's at Morehouse School of Medicine, so he's a doctor. And he was going to give a presentation of ancient African medicine throughout Kemet, but for some reason he couldn't get his presentation to load. So he decided that in the meantime he would give a talk on ancient Kemet and music in ancient Kemet specifically. And some of the things that he talked about were how in ancient Kemet there were even certain rhythms, certain harmonies and melodies that were outlawed because it was understood that certain things are beneficial, vibrations and frequencies are beneficial for human healing, and other ones should be banned because they cause nothing but strife. So not only did we develop music there as well, and again, I could only make my presentation so exhaustive, but not only did we develop music, but we had a scientific understanding of it to the point that we know what each one of these types of music is for. I had one time when I was in Kumasi where I was feeling sick, and I was at the place of Comfort, Manabas. And I felt so sick, but when I woke up, I was hearing the drums playing. They were playing, I told me it was a president. And the song I still remember was, I've had several occasions where I wasn't feeling well and I went to an Akon, and from there, all of that, just the music. And there's a point as well where the music will resonate with your neural frequencies, and that's how you start to go into a trance, because it's scientifically understood what will get you to an trance, because all of these are vibrations, amplitude, and frequency. So again, all of that was understood in ancient Kemet. Again, I left out a lot, but that was one thing. And another presentation I actually gave a presentation where I went into Buddha, Bodhidharma, which is what he was called. And if you look at all of the original depictions of Buddha, you'll see him jet black. And you see him black and he has his hair in locks, but they're tied up like this into what they now call the Bantu knots. So I showed all of those different things again because I can only take so much time, but you'll see this. And what's interesting about that is that those are the oldest depictions of Buddha, and you'll see him jet black, you'll see him with locks, you'll see him with lips thicker than all of y'all's put together, nose wider than all of y'all's put together. That's the original Buddha. But you'll find that over time, any place that he went, they changed the image of Buddha to match what they look like. So the original people in India, and they're still there, the Dravidians, what are now called the Dalit, the untouchable, they are now a subcaste and undercaste. And I remember for a while, Dr. Renoko Rashidi, who deals with global African presence, almost every week he was sending me a news article about the shadow of a black untouchable fell on someone from one of the white castes, the higher caste, and she was burned alive. She was raped and burned alive, like every week. And they even, I read a book by V.T. Rajshekar called Dalit, the Black Untouchables of India. And one thing coming from Renoko Rashidi again is that from him going there and speaking, he reported that they also had the Dalit Panthers, modeled on the Black Panthers, that they say we're still black people, we're black, and they try to fight against all this oppression. So again, coming back to Buddha, you find that once these Aryan invaders came in, that they changed the image of Buddha to match them. So you see Buddha looking like this Aryan invader as opposed to the original black Buddha. If you go to China, you'll see Buddha looking like someone who's Chinese. If you go to Japan, you'll see him looking like someone who's Japanese. And again, the question in the presentation that I gave that highlighted that was a question of when will you change the image back to the image of Heru, of a black person. So you see on the back of the Trotros a picture of Caesar Borgia, the illegitimate, sociopathic, psychopathic, fratricidal, pervert, murderer. There was a guy called Caesar Borgia, by the way. And he was all of those things. He was the illegitimate son of Pope Alexander VI. And when Pope Alexander decided to commission an image, because they had the Black Madonna, the Black Mary, and the Black Jesus, and they said, why are we worshiping someone who doesn't look like us? That's a very good question, right? That's what the Romans said. And they said, we need to reconfigure these images. So has anyone ever seen a picture of the Last Supper? So all of those white guys there at the Last Supper are jailbirds. These are criminal convicts, so they said, you're not doing anything, we need you to pose for this image. So they got that image, they got the Caesar Borgia, so all of these are very recent phenomena dating to the late 1400s, around the same time that they finally broke out of Europe. So again, this is something that I'm asking, if you see that wherever the Buddha goes, they change it to fit them. Wherever the Heru goes, they change it, make it into a white Jesus. So now you have this white Jesus that's returned to you, which is nothing but a plagiarized and stolen Heru. There's a quick parable that Dr. Ben talks about. He says, if I make a huge feast for you, and I invite everyone, and everyone comes to partake of this feast, now they go back to their own countries and they vomit up the feast. Now you, because of being in a starved condition, they bring you back this vomit. And now you're looking through the vomit, picking for African spices. Oh, here's the Bible. Here's something African in the Bible. Oh, here's this declaration of Ma'at in this commandment. So why are we picking through vomit when we can go straight to the original source that we plagiarized from? So again, very true in terms of Buddha taking all of those things. But again, the question is, why are we picking up vomit and trying to sift through, trying to find African things when the very African thing is still there? But I looked at a documentary called Jogo de Cobra Body Games. And this is Mestre Cobra Mansa, who does capoeira out of Brazil. He went to Angola, to the source of where it was, and the only people who still know how to do the original capoeira as it was, they are in their 70s and 80s, and you said, we don't want to learn this. So you have an unbroken line going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and now it's up to the 70-year-olds and the youth saying, we don't want to know this. We want to know Taekwondo, we want to know Karate, we want to know these things. You understand? So again, all of those things are true, but again, when do we go back to our own, things instead of trying to sift through what the Asians may have preserved, or the Greeks or the Romans or whatever? Was there another point? Music, Buddha. Oh yeah, Tom. Okay. So anyone?
Many questions. Okay, round here. I always really go back to the roots. A lot of times when you talk about Europeans, and you say you're around the translation, around there, I think one of the first volumes of any two I've read. I never come up with any more, and those two very important books here for people because I'm sure most people know about this.
Yeah, Ron Niffa has a book called Miseducation, available in volume. My parents, as I mentioned, used to own a bookstore, so they had him, his books. There's another book called Miseducation, also by Jacob Carruthers. I actually got a chance to meet Ron Niffa in Chicago, and when we met, he had words of caution for me just in terms of my study of Miseducation. And he cautioned me not to write things down before I'm very sure of what I'm writing, because he was basing that on his own experience. He said that some of the things that he originally put out, he came to a different understanding. If he had to do it again, he would do it differently. If people are interested in learning Miseducation, I would, point them in different directions. I would point them to dictionaries of literature. I would point them to the works of Theophilo Vega and others. I do think that we can learn from Robin F. Men, but I also would recommend others as well as that. I'm not aware, to answer your question directly, I'm not aware of where it's available here in terms of book sales or something like that. But there's a whole host of materials that need to be here. Most notably the works of Cheikh Anta Diop, Theophilo Vega, and others. Well, Keti Amin as well has a book called Miseducation that I'm working with my daughter on. And she wants to restore Middle literature into a spoken language. Right? So she has a workbook with exercises of how to do greetings, how to do all these different things. It's available for someone who's very credible. So I also recommend, her works as well.
Thank you very much. And like I said, if you want to learn more, know more, just go to the website, our Archaeology's website, or go to Kambon's, the Abidin to make us website. Yeah. So
Also, very quickly, Baba Bonochi Montgomery also ASCAC, he teaches middle literature online through our website. So if anyone has internet access and also are interested in learning middle literature, you can learn from someone who has mastered it. He mainly works on spirit doors. He has a lecture online that there are no gods in ancient Kemet. Basically, what he was calling into question is the idea of translating Necha or Necharu into God. That, when a lot of the words come with conceptual baggage, so you think of God, you're thinking of a white man up in the sky, and Necha is a male and female force of creation. So, again, you can learn many lectures.
So, Dr. Z as well, for making this meeting possible as well. And thank you all for sitting through to this time. I know it's late, but thank you, and I did learn a lot. Yes. And if you want, I think probably in a few years' time, we should have like a course running for a year that you can take probably chematology. Then you can come back for a master or something. It would be great. It would be nice. All right. If you want to join the club, you just see me pick up the form. Then you can get okay, we meet and make things happen. This is supposed to be a reform and revitalizing African youth and also anybody else who is interested. So we have a little something outside just to refresh our bodies and nourish our minds. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.